The place to be is living free in Tennessee.
Welcome to Living Free in Tennessee, where we talk about building the life you choose on your terms. Today is Friday, May 2nd, 2025, and this is episode 1031 of Living Free in Tennessee. And it's a Friday show, so it's a Homestead Happening show. But I'm going to start out by getting my share screen to work. Anyway, actually, so we're going to talk about a lot of stuff today. Tactical Redneck will be in when he's done making coffee. And we're going to give you an update of a list of things we came up from the last 2 weeks. If you have any questions as we go along, put the word question in all caps and then follow it with your question. As you can hear, I have my voice back. Tuesday, I barely made it through the show with Salatin, but I wasn't going to cancel that because it was already on the books. And then Mom has been working with me to do some classical training on my voice, which usually is what keeps me from losing my voice at events. To get it back in shape. Up concert this weekend in Cookeville. The Master Singers are doing a really cool concert called Illuminare Light in Darkness, and it's got the composer of a work, Elaine Hagenberg, is going to be conducting our actual choir, and our director is going to be singing with us. So that's going to be kind of fun. And then the choir is taking that to Ireland to a choral festival. So that one's only $15 if you want to come, mastersingersinc.com, but it's not our featured event of today's show. Our featured event of today's show is in Kansas at the Midwest Preparedness Project. They've got their spring festival starting next week. If you go to midwestpreparednessproject.com, you can find all the information there. I believe you can start showing up Wednesday, but maybe it was Tuesday, I don't know, next week at their location, which is sort of near Lawrence. It's Lawrence, Kansas, right? Anyway, I don't think it's Lawrenceville. I think it's Lawrence. And it's a pretty cool site. It's, you'll be camping if you stay there, or you can get an Airbnb nearby. And then Friday, Saturday, they have sessions with Joel Salatin, Bear Independent. I'm forgetting William Bond, same name. Those two have the same name, but different, man. Anyway, William Bond's going to be there, and a whole bunch of other great folks. Lawrence, Kansas. Good. I said it right. Just south of Lawrence. I'm going to be there with Mama Sauce as an attendee. It's kind of fun to go to an event as an attendee. And last year when I was there as a not attendee, I was like, hey, I think I want to just come to because I usually need a chill vacation. And that is so true this year more than ever. I was pretty much dead after the spring workshop. And this is why. So we got all done. And usually what happens after the spring workshop is everybody leaves me alone. And then I end up going to isolate. And we were kind of there. And then this little guy had a seizure. And he had it right in front of me. It's like all of a sudden a switch turned. I didn't know it was wrong. And we kind of had some people here still, and we're feeding them leftovers. And I became concerned enough that we went to the veterinarian and found out he'd had, not a seizure, a stroke. So he had a stroke. The stroke was the seizure. Yeah, it looked like a seizure. Anyway, we couldn't keep him alive. And so we got home. Tactical went with me. We got home at 1 in the morning. It was late. And he died. So we buried him. And what happens to me when I grieve is I also get sick, usually. I get a physical reaction. I already had lost my voice at the spring workshop, and I just I've not been well this week. So we didn't do any other content as a result of that. And I've just been isolating. I'm going to continue to isolate through the weekend for sure. Just trying to regenerate, spend time in my garden by myself, and mourn this little guy. But he's been on the homestead for many years. He came to us out of the tree line, having been attacked by a bunch of dogs down the road as a kitten. Then he got a brain injury, a brain infection, and lost his ability to balance. And so he was always the cat that walked around with a tilty head. And he was the one who'd let you pet him, but he was an asshole. So he'd let you pet him till he was done, and then he'd let you know he was done. Yeah. Right? Yep. So we're remembering Mortimer today. And the next thing I want to hear about is from Tactical. Tell them about your fencing video project.
So we've still got Rebecca is here, and so she's got some spare time. So I don't know how much video we've shot so far. We actually just got done with like an hour of video. So we're scoping out another neighbor's property to put in 2 fence lines over there. So we kind of walked up and I kind of showed what I'm looking at in that regards. And then we took a walk back down the wash and showed a lot of the water control stuff that we've done, some of the stuff that's kind of developed over time. And then we also looked at some other fencing stuff while we were back there because we've got a bunch of permanent paddocks set up back there. So just kind of not really showing how to, but kind of how I have my fencing back there set up. So we'll see what actually comes out of all of that and if we can get anything else videoed today.
Yeah, so the purpose of this is that we can have more informational videos, and the way that he's come up with fencing on my property and is that it's a hilly property, it's got difficult ground, and he's learned through trial and error what doesn't work. And we want to provide a resource for things people could think of if they're in a similar situation or have something that could benefit from solutions he's come up with, like using springs on the permanent fencing so that if a tree falls on it, the spring springs and the line the fence doesn't sever, for, like that's something you do. As well as like how he's come up with where the permanent fencing goes. It's semi-permanent. It's not really permanent, but it's
some of it's more permanent.
Some of it's more permanent than others. So that's cool. Okay. I let you talk because I was too emotional. I want to thank our 2 sponsors today. Sponsor number 1 is the Wealthsteading podcast. John Pugliano was just here talking about ham radio and also the other one, mesh, the mesh thing.
Mesh networks.
It's not mesh. It's okay. Somebody who's at the workshop, you can tell me the name because I'm not remembering the name because apparently I can't remember today. Anyway, so he was talking about communications, and then we also had him talking about developing, implementing permaculture practices into your wealth plan. And the Wealthsteading podcast is just talking about how he does that for himself. He's a self-made wealthy man and wants to pass that on to y'all. Check that out at investablewealth.com. If you go to the menu there and click on books and podcasts, you'll see it there. Or if you have a podcatcher, you can just download it on your podcatcher by typing in the Wealthsteading podcast. Our second sponsor today is agoristaxadvice.com. Matthew Sursley was also here for the spring workshop, and it was really nice to be able to talk to him in person, although he and I didn't get a lot of time. And by the time we did, my voice was already telling me to pound sand. Mom would tell me to speak higher right now. Right, Mom? Right. So anyway, it was good to see him. And what he does is work with you to analyze your financial situation, suggest business structures that may help you, and then go over tax write-offs that you can track, how to track them so that you keep more of your money in your pocket. With that, it's time for the second segment of today's show, yarrow. Have you seen yarrow up?
Everywhere.
We've got yarrow in our yard because Carrie from Strong Roots Resources one day was here and had a big plant sale. I think it was at a workshop last year or the year before. And he's like, hey, I got all these yarrow plants left over. You want me to throw them in your yard? I was like, yeah. And then I forgot it happened. And then I was like, dude, I need to buy yarrow from you the next spring. I was like, oh, never mind. It's coming up in my food forest. He's like, oh yeah, I put those there. Which is often how things end up in my food forest because I'm super strategic about what plant goes exactly where in it, right?
Yeah.
Now, my approach with my food forest was, what if I don't have a huge budget to put the food forest in to get the bones right and just start infilling plants that I propagate, that I source from the community and see what lives. And I have killed a number of plants that way.
Yeah.
We actually just put a bunch of strawberries out from Nick Ferguson and most of them are dead, but a couple are alive, and those are the ones to keep. Those are the honey badgers of strawberry plants, which were already good stock. And then I have a few of those plants in a pot so that I can, pull plants off of those that I'm babying more, because I really want that variety of strawberry here. So that's how the food forest has gone. Well, so then I decided, nope, don't need to get yarrow from Carrie. And we've just been using it medicinally since that time. Well, we're coming down from the top of the pasture the other day, and Tactical does something that causes chagrin, because I was on the back of the four-wheeler with him because only one four-wheeler was working.
About that.
And he stopped on a really steep hill like this. And I'm like, ah. He's like, what's that? I said, yarrow. So we have yarrow coming up in the pasture as well. So yeah, that's really cool. But just from a foraging standpoint, now's a good time to grab them and move them and baby them a little bit this year with some water, let them get established. You can have yarrow all over the place. Speaking of the broken four-wheeler.
Still irritated about that one.
So we went into the spring workshop having had, 2 weeks with no four-wheeler? We just one four-wheeler.
Something like that.
Every time we had to go up the hill, it was like me on the back. Even when helping somebody birth babies in the middle of the night, the terrifying trip up the. I was actually glad that I got to walk down carrying a baby lamb, and you had to go back up and come down the hill on the four-wheeler by yourself.
I was not happy about walking that.
I was going to walk down it by myself anyway. Even I was like, so I'm here, and she's like she's in labor, and I'm sitting here going, I don't want to ride up that hill in the dark, not driving the four-wheeler.
Yeah.
And guess what? I did anyway, because I was needed in the pasture. So, yeah. So Tactical did all sorts of troubleshooting on it, ordered parts, tried parts that didn't work, finally came to the conclusion that, what part did you need to get?
I knew it was one of two things. It was either the CDI box, which is $200+, or a rectifier, which is like $8. So I ordered both. I had a feeling it was the rectifier, but I was like, it wouldn't hurt to have a CDI box on the shelf anyway, because if you look at anything on the internet, the automatic assumption is if that particular four-wheeler doesn't have spark, it's the CDI box's fault. That's like the only problem, according to the internet, this four-wheeler has. So I was like, it won't hurt to have it. And I got both parts in, 2 days before the workshop?
It was the day before the workshop.
And the day before.
He had it all ready to go to put them on. He had them on in no time, and it still wasn't starting. He was pissed off, and then he goes, if this next thing works, I'm going to be mad. What was it?
I was going to be pissed.
You were pissed.
This is the emergency kill switch had been toggled into the off position.
Is it plugged in? Did you restart it?
I didn't even think about it. The reason I was pissed was because I didn't even think to look at that. Because as far as I'm concerned, that switch doesn't exist because I never use it, because it's stupid and it shouldn't be there. And it's not going to be there for very much longer because I'm going to bypass it. Because I'm not going to have this problem again.
So when I got off the four-wheeler, apparently when I was grabbing on the handlebars, I accidentally hit it, and then it just wouldn't start. And then I got to tow the four-wheeler down the hill, down the very, very steep hill, and then all the way back to the hauler and up here. And I was like, wow, I've never towed a four-wheeler with a four-wheeler before. And I'm kind of proud of myself, even though it was more about him not running into me than anything else.
Yeah, and there was only two things on that four-wheeler that I didn't check. That emergency switch and the stator, and checking the stator required taking the engine apart. And it was very unlikely that that was the problem. And so when I just happened to have the handlebars at eye level and looked up and saw it in the off position, and I was like, 2 weeks of electrical troubleshooting for this.
So the technician asking you on the phone if your computer is plugged in is a thing. And apparently we should ask ourselves that question. I'm sure the source of the chaos was me, as it always is, but I did not turn it off with intention. I think I just hit it with my thumb on the way off.
And I've had one of those where that switch was just finicky enough. If it got touched and kind of offset just a little bit, you couldn't get the thing started. So I should have thought about looking at that, and I just didn't. That's the reason I was so irritated with it. And I hate electrical troubleshooting.
But on the other side of the coin, I had timed the rabbits so that they would give birth at the workshop, and they didn't. And I was convinced one of them had and ate her babies because she made a nest while everybody was there. But it turns out that rabbits don't read calendars, and they waited for everybody to leave, probably because it was calmer without everybody at the property. And 2 of them had given birth as of yesterday. So we have baby rabbits now. The third one has not. She was the first one to be exposed to the male. So I'm going to give her another week, and then he's going to come visit again, and we'll see how we do. She also has an ear mite problem, so that may have interfered. So we need to start oiling her ears today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I should have started that yesterday. I was looking at her. I came in to do that, didn't find the oil, got distracted. And here we are.
Story of my life.
Yeah. So we're going to get that. I have to go find, I think the rabbit oil is outside too, in the medical kit on the shelves. That's where I saw it last. If not, I get to make a new one. And she'll have vanilla scented oil if that happens. Ear oil. Because I have an empty vanilla bottle with a dropper in it. Okay. So a lot of you who were at the workshop saw Alan, and if you, or on YouTube, saw Alan Booker's presentation on creating soil health. And he talked about measuring the Brix in your plants, which is like a numerical value, measures the sugar or the dissolved solids really in the plant. And it just so happened that I had wanted to do that anyway, but didn't really know how, but I had the equipment here to do it. And so while he was here, I was like, hey, I got it won't be high. The reading won't be high. It's my first year on this garden bed, but let's see what my baseline is. And so he walked me through how to do it. And I was pretty surprised to discover that my Swiss chard leaves are measuring a Brix level of 5. Like, Jack's like, good job, Nicole. Alan said, when you get up to 6, the aphids will leave it alone, which is his nice way of saying you're growing aphid food, Nicole. But I think most gardeners are at about a 2. And at the grocery store, it's 1 or below. And the higher the Brix level in your plants, A, the more naturally pest resistant they are, and B, the more nutritionally dense they are. So that your goal is to get up higher. Jack said the highest he's gotten is about 12 on his. So we also measured in the aquaponics system, which we thought would be higher, and it was lower. It was 4. And that's an established system of 8 years, but I've always struggled with the balance on that one. So that was what we did. And I'm hoping that he gets to come back next year to the spring workshop, and we can actually do some field work with him on just like looking at soil microbiology and measuring the different Brix of plants and anything else, making actual compost tea.
Yeah, it'd also be curious to see what is up with the pasture too.
Yeah. And if you're like, wow, I really wish I could have seen that presentation. We did live stream all presentations except for 2. So they're on the YouTube channel. You can go check them out. How was Wood Chip Mecca yesterday?
It actually wasn't bad.
We drove there to get wood chips to cap the bioreactor we built at my spring workshop because I didn't have wood. You want to have like 4 or 5 inches of wood chips on there. And part of that is to keep it from drying out. I discovered the other part of that is to keep it from smelling horrible. And it took me an extra few days to have the energy to be able to do it. So Tactical is like, Nicole, there's rain coming. If we're going to get wood chips today, we go now in the middle of the day, which is about the worst time to hand shovel wood chips usually, right? Because it's hot.
Yeah, and it was like, that was at like 11 o'clock. And that morning, the weather said it was going to start raining at 10 o'clock. And so it's like, yeah, if we're gonna do this, sooner is better than later.
And I see Chris Watkins is in the live stream, and I just want to say our core problem, Chris, is that you don't live near me and you don't just dump all your wood chips here. Anyway, I haven't found an arborist to do that. Although where we get our wood chips, you have to know the place exists in the county. And then if you do know the place exists, you can go and get wood chips. His one rule is like no campfires back there, no shooting guns back there. Just go get your wood chips and leave, and don't leave your garbage around. And so far, people have respected that. But I also think it's because it's a close held county secret where it is. And it's an acre or two of an arborist dumping all of his chipped up stuff and logs and such. So I know that last year, like as you drive in, there's wood chips on the right, wood chips on the left. And I know he was dumping on the right last year. So I came in, I'm like, I think we need to get those wood chips. And I pointed, and Tactical's like, just pull up there and wait. And he then proceeds to go to each pile along each side and pick it up and look at it and crumble it in his hand and smell it and pray which one's the best. And then he went back to the pile I pointed at to begin with. I made my choice on, I'm pretty sure that's the oldest one.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at that, but I was also looking at like the first pile I walked up to was some form of pine.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if it was cedar or not. I don't think it was cedar, but it was something along those lines. And that's not the pile to pull from.
Yeah. So we got those wood chips on yesterday, and the smell went away of the compost pile. So that was nice yesterday. It was a much more pleasant evening under Taj Mahal last night because that smell went away. So I'm just glad we have that resource, even though we have to hand load. Sure would be nice if we had a skid steer to bring out there and just bucket it and come back and bucket it and come back and bucket it.
Yeah.
But so far we haven't worked the skid steer into the budget.
No.
Instead, I'm spending money on gutters.
Yeah.
So that's wood chip mecca. As far as foraging goes, red clover is up as of yesterday. And I like to get it before the sunlight hits it in the morning. I tested last year, does it keep its color better? Because that's what they say on the internet. And the answer is yes, it does. And so it's time for me to get those, but those stay all summer. More importantly, the wild roses are blooming, and I've got about the rest of the week to go get some of those. That's another one that getting them before they get all dried out is actually better. So tomorrow when I'm on my walk, I'll probably take a container and stop at I was scoping out places where I could get to them easily this morning because I cut them all out of my hillside garden. So there's nothing blooming there now. And I will get them harvested, and then we can dry them. And then I use those for tea in the winter. I was very careful with my roses this year, my rose petals for tea. And now I know that I'll have plenty if I just get what I got last year.
Yeah, the ones in the pasture are not going to bloom this year.
Okay.
Because they're all dead.
Okay. Well, don't kill all of them in the holler because they're medicinal.
Okay. I don't care if they're halfway up the wash. I just don't want them in the pasture.
Okay.
Or anywhere else that I've got to do anything.
The other medicinal that I noticed was poison hemlock. Okay, not really. The way you use that is if you don't want somebody in your life, you can make them die a horrible death. No, but it's important, I think, to know what poison hemlock looks like and what your actual risk is. I had a poison hemlock in my garden this year. There was one growing by one of my raised beds that I pulled out yesterday. And then they are popping up other places. My goal with them is to keep them from flowering and reseeding themselves. So I'll chop them. The one by my bed, I was able to pull its roots out. And the thing about handling poison hemlock is they say if you handle it too much, you can absorb enough poison through the skin that you could make yourself sick, or you could have a rash reaction. So if you're getting rid of it, just be aware, kind of treat it like poison ivy. Like if you were allergic to poison ivy, you wouldn't be going all in barehanded and rubbing it all over your arms and face, right? Like carefully handle it. I'm sure if you compost it, it's fine. I haven't looked that up, but I'm sure it's fine. But double check me on that one. But we're just getting rid of the ones here on the property. They're all along the road. There's not a lot we can do about that except for go on a quest against hemlock. And really, we've focused on my property and the pasture. And the sheep eat it, by the way. So when it's young, they'll eat a little bit of it. So it must have some of a tonic effect on them, because sheep don't usually just eat things that will kill them in high amounts, but sometimes they'll nibble on a little something poisonous to clear themselves out.
Yeah. I'm also sure that if you only touch it with a weed eater, you won't break out in a rash.
Yeah. Chris Watkins says ice cold water if you getting poison ivy. Yep. But just be careful. And Queen Anne's lace is the plant that people most mistake for it. It's when they're young that they look most alike. Their leaf pattern's a little different if you get to know them, but Queen Anne's lace has hair on the stem. Poison hemlock, smooth stem with some purple speckles. When they're young, though, those purple speckles aren't there, and that's the deal with that. So I think that's everything I have medicinally speaking right now to talk about. There's other stuff. Everything's coming on for tea right now, like leaves for the raspberries and blackberries are blooming, and their leaves are great in tea. That's really flavorful. Tactical just hates all pokey plants, so that's why he looks like that. We missed.
I don't have a problem with them existing anywhere but where I've got to manage stuff.
Yeah, so that's the deal there. Stormy, what's the update on Stormy? So she had a lot of swelling after her birth, and it was not going down, and I was starting to get worried. How's she looking now?
She's perfectly fine at this point. I don't remember exactly the timeline, but it was sometime during the workshop when I was not paying attention as much. It's like, yeah, I mean, looks like still, what's the word that I'm looking for? Larger, but not as much inflamed. And then like I went like a day without looking, and it's like noticeable difference.
Yeah, so I don't know if we're going to breed her again. What do you think?
I'm not even going to assess that until closer to time, because we've got months before.
Yeah, she's looking really skinny right now, as is one other sheep. So I might try some pumpkin seeds, but just to increase resistance to parasites. I don't know if it's just she's nursing and didn't have a lot of gas built up to begin with.
Yeah.
And then that was a hard birth, so she had to recover from that at the same time. But and I didn't look at her eye color. So the FAMSHA scorecard thing that I do is if one, like you look at their eye color, you look at their gums, you look at their condition, and if they score low, then you treat for parasites or you investigate treating for parasites. And usually I've never really had to do that. I just look and I'm like, oh, okay, we're good. We're good. Well, I got two who look a little figgly right now.
Yeah. And they're, I mean, I guess what, 1, 2, 3 weeks off of hay.
Yeah. And Red Flyer Media says while we were there with the sheep, she woke her baby up to feed.
Yeah.
So she's a good mom.
Yeah. She got the hang of it quick.
Yeah. Oh, she instantly bonded with that little guy.
Oh, yeah.
So.
I mean, it took her a couple of seconds to realize he was there.
Yeah.
But
then she was like, mine.
Yeah. As soon as she saw him, it was like, mine.
You have that one, Mom.
Yeah.
So, yep. So that's good. We've also got a lot of hoof trimming to do, which is a preventative thing to keep them from getting hoof rot. And for me, that is a really time-consuming thing, because like they show you these videos of hoof trimming is like snip, 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 next. How this really goes at our place is we hold them down. They don't want us to do it. They're not like the wool sheep that just sit back and let you mess with their hooves. And then I'm trying to be really careful about not to take too much off so it's bloody. And sometimes they're weird shapes because I've let them go too long. And it's a 2-person thing. And I've got about an hour of hoof trimming in me at a time. So we're going to start catching them and getting hooves for half an hour to an hour at a time once a day until we get through all the hooves. And neither one of us is looking forward to that, correct?
No, it's just more of a time suck. And then once you catch the first one, everybody else is like, piss off.
Yeah, so we usually get about 2 done in an hour. Sometimes 3.
Yeah, first one's usually easy to catch.
Yeah.
Especially if it's stormy.
Yeah, well, I mean, Stormy's the least of my worries right now. So, and then also with the ladies not being pregnant anymore, I don't have to worry about throwing around pregnant sheep.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. The boys I'm not worried about. We should check out the ram's hoofs.
Yeah.
But the boys are, unless they're getting sold for ram stock, most of them are already earmarked for meat.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What's fun about sheep hooves is if you want to see what one should look like when they're born, they come out soft and they harden almost instantly, and that's what we're going for.
Yeah.
That's the shape you want. But it's not my favorite part of sheep raising. The hooves is probably my least favorite part.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you agree with that, or you have a different one?
You get a dick ram.
True. Hey, Mom, how's my talking going, in your opinion?
Oh, I don't know.
No, tell me really.
Raise it.
I need to raise my voice higher, like that?
Yeah,
Okay.
not that high.
Okay, not that high. Apparently, I'm still speaking down here. I usually don't have voice problems, but at the workshop, I developed voice problems, and it's the second time it's happened to that extent. And I'm already noticing I'm feeling a little raw after this. So I'm trying to not do it anymore, but I've started speaking lower, and it's like killing me. So we did get the voice back. It took days, and it's not really back. And I am not supporting my voice well enough, and I have a concert this weekend. So that's been a big learning curve. I'm basically doing vocal warm-ups every day, once or twice a day, to try to keep it going. And then when I talk, I revert to my lowest common denominator, which is down here, right?
Right.
Is that better now, like this?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're fine.
Yeah. That was my written check-in moment during the show. And I'm also trying to speak a little less loud.
Okay.
What's that mean?
Oh.
So the Rams are in their second rotation at my property. What's that about?
Yes. They're actually just moved them onto the second paddock of the rotation. So they just finished their second rotation through the first paddock, and stuff's actually coming in pretty good. We've got a solid 2-month rotation at this point down for them, which can fluctuate a little bit depending on food in the paddock. And then there's some other spots, like if I run them in between the workshop and the cabin, that's an extra patch of food. So there's a little bit of flex in that, but I mean, so far we expanded into some other areas this year that were not previously part of some of the paddocks. So they kind of started to clear things out a little bit, and then I'm going to be able to go in a lot easier to a couple of areas and finish hacking out a lot of the privet and whatever else that we want to just die and go away. So we'll see. Everybody keeps talking about rain. I'm kind of really feeling a drought right now. So I'm hoping that we do get a little bit of rain to see what comes back up, because we're starting to get a little bit past the spring.
Yes.
What do you call it? Everything comes up in the spring. We get a lot of stuff in, like the woods that will come up before the trees actually start putting on leaves.
So I'd like
So-
you to read, I'd like to read this from Spiky Mikey, which is, good morning, y'all. We're officially under a severe thunderstorm watch until 5 p.m. High five me. He doesn't actually high five me. We might actually get some storms this time. That's actually a pretty wild endorsement.
Might.
A line of strong stormy McThunderbutts is moving across Tennessee River now, and there are also discrete cells popping out ahead of the line. These will increase as the day goes on. Our main severe threat is wind and hail. Tornado chances are low, but not zero. I'll be online for the rest of the day, so no worries. So that just increases your chance of getting a little bit of rain today, as opposed to yesterday where it started. Remember when it started raining yesterday? And it
For
went
like half a second.
and then it was done. It just sort of like threw it. It
Yeah,
teased
we got
us.
like 5 raindrops.
Yeah, it was
in the
amazing.
whole holler.
It was amazing. So yeah, we're actually ready for rain. If it doesn't rain by 5 o'clock today, I will be watering my raised beds.
Yeah.
So I hope I don't have to water them because I'm cheap. We've got sweet potato slips to put out. So I'm going to put some of those in my food forest. I might put one on the corner of a raised bed, like hanging over the side. But then it ends up, usually if you do that, you get a whole swelling.
Yeah.
I'm actually wondering if I could co-plant them with the garlic, which is coming out in another 2 months. It'll come out mid-June, so 6 weeks. I might be able to pot some and then move them there.
Probably.
Yeah, that's probably what I should do for that. It's been interesting because my broccoli's doing really well this year.
Yeah.
And that is not usually the case. And I was planning to succession plant under it, and now I'm like, but I'm just now getting broccoli off it.
Yeah.
So I may put some beans actually under the broccoli as opposed to the pepper and tomato plants I was planning to put in there. And then pepper and tomato plants in that raised bed, you're going to help finish filling up. Yeah. We got the tomato wall up today. It's still got problems. So we're troubleshooting that right now. It's overflowing on the timer. Yeah. We're going to check and make sure the timer isn't in the on position and that it's in the timer position.
Yeah, and then what's gonna end up happening is I'm probably gonna end up having to replace a section of that hose because I'm gonna have to cut it off.
He didn't like that answer. David Johnson says a thunderstorm just went through Dixon. Right. We're next 2 hours after you. If they make it here.
Yeah, if they make it.
If they make it here, maybe 3 hours. And if we get pop-up storms, that's fine too.
Yeah.
Something that was interesting about Alan's presentation at the workshop was he was talking about how when you sort of manage your property like this, where it's a permaculture approach and you're improving the quality, even on small properties, it changes the microclimate to where it attracts rain.
Yeah.
So let's hope that happens.
Yeah.
But not too much rain.
I'll take anything at this point.
Yeah. Yep. How are the Egyptian walking onions doing?
They're like a breath away from actually putting on heads that I can transplant. And I'm kind of looking forward to that.
You're going to put them all over the holler?
Yes.
Okay.
They're going to go everywhere.
I have one in one of my raised beds looking like that too.
Yeah, I mean, I've got them in my AP. I've got them in some pots. I've got them down by the pond. And there's a good amount of them. So as soon as they put on heads, I'm dispersing them everywhere.
Well, I should show y'all on a video how to use them because you can use the bulb, but also the green part, but there's just place in between the bulb and the green part that's woody and chewy that you don't want to use.
Yeah.
It's kind of like chewing on the end of an asparagus.
I mean,
No matter how much you cook it, it's really good for broth as long as you're going to filter it out. But I've made the mistake of having a really sharp knife and cutting that up and putting it in the stir fry. And he was like, what's in here? And I was like, the wrong part of the Egyptian walking onion that I had to learn the hard way not to use.
Well, I normally have some that are smaller that I can just use and I always have a cycle going. This is the first year where it's like I haven't touched them at all. And I mean, they're massive.
Cool. What are you doing to get ready for Midwest Preparedness Project?
Preparing to be here by myself.
He was talking about how he's getting ready to go. No, he's getting ready for me to go.
Yeah. I'm preparing for Midwest and I'm not going.
Yep.
I think is what I said.
So if I start the sunflower grow system in the carport, do you think you'll keep up on it while I'm gone, or
Nope.
no?
The only way that's going to happen is if it's a screened-in porch.
Okay. What about, like, do you fill up water bottles over here?
No.
Okay. I thought this is where you filled up the sheep water.
Sometimes.
If I put it right by that, you'll see it.
It's like usually where I fill jugs up for the sheep is completely dependent upon where the end of the hose is.
You know, speaking of hoses, there's something I wonder. There's a gray hose out there that looks like it goes underground.
It goes like an inch underground.
What's its purpose?
Its purpose was for the chickens, and I haven't pulled it up.
So I can pull it up?
Yeah.
Okay. It looks like a trip hazard to me every time I see it. It was there for the whole spring workshop, even though we cleaned everything up. And I was like, it must go somewhere because it goes underground. So I left it there.
No, the part where it goes underground, it only goes underground for a couple of feet, and that's where all of the dirt washes off from around Taj Mahal.
You for the chickens, you mean like for chicken processing?
No, for when we had chickens down there. That's how long it's been there. So that I didn't have to carry water all the way down there.
Okay. Now I know. I can take it out. Wouldn't it be cool to stub up a little spigot there?
Yeah, but that requires trenching.
Well, we just trench to where the pipe is, though.
Yeah, it's less of an issue now.
So when we put in that alternative water pipe, Cliff Davis said you should put daffodil bulbs along that route. And I didn't.
That's actually a decent idea.
Yeah, I didn't because I was like, I don't know where to get any right now. He was 100% right.
When we did the conduit going over to the roasting shack, I had the ingenious idea that I was going to throw this old metal plate on the 90 where it turns to go to the roasting shack so I could find it with a metal detector. And then I needed to find it, and I took the metal detector, and it just hit on that whole area. It's like, well, that was a good idea.
So we're going to do the daffodil method next time we put utilities in the ground?
Probably.
Yeah. I have an aerial picture of when that ditch was there. I'm pretty sure
That's
Steve,
actually good.
I think Steve came over with his drone and took a picture. Because I was like, I feel like we need a picture of this or we're going to regret it later.
Yeah, I know roughly where that pipe goes.
Yeah.
Just because I remember the route that we took going around like the French drain.
Yeah. Eric was like, why didn't you put a wire in it? And I'm like, I'm not sure we didn't.
No, we didn't.
Okay, we didn't. So, yeah, daffodils. That would be cool. Anyway, that's all I've got for the week, and I haven't seen any questions come up in the live stream. You got anything else you want to share today?
I don't think so.
Yeah, we're just kind of in mad rush because May, I'm out of town a lot. And so in between, I'm trying to get the gardens like into the, so we're at this rotation time where the early spring stuff is going to start dying. And the stuff that goes in now, like beans and squash and all that, need to go in now. And so the mad rush is getting that stuff up and running. Cucumbers. I'd love cucumbers this year.
No.
I think I'd really like them. So, and I have less garden to grow in. So there's this thing where even though I grew fewer plants than I usually do, although the tomatoes don't count, that kind of turned into a tomato explosion. I still have too many plants. So
Yeah.
it's sort of like, how do I fit all of this in just 4 beds? And and I only have 3 beds right now.
Yeah.
So we need to get the 4th one up. And then we're going to put in 5 and 6 and not use them this year and use them as a compost in place thing for either fall garden or next year. But it's sort of like having to re-envision how I grow, which is good for me because the plant communities I've used in my bigger garden, I could get away with sort of not. but I can't do that now. So it's interesting to see, like, how do I get enough production out of this place to make it work?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's what's going on here. We're just doing the rotation in between trips, and it's been a pretty good year so far as homestead stuff. Like, I would say compared to last year, it was just one crisis after the other.
Yeah.
So this year has been a lot better. And part of that, it was taking more time, from a plant perspective, taking more time on my soil this year. And part of that is just that things are finally coming together in a way that, like, we had the plan, but the plan, it's like, how fast can you execute the plan? You can only do one step at a time. So if you have a homestead, just remember, you can only do one step at a time. And sometimes it takes years for things to come together. With that, if you like the show and want to support the work I'm doing here, you can do it in two ways. One, get your coffee at hollerroast.com. Two, consider becoming a member. Go to livingfreeintennessee.com to find out more. With that, guys, go out, make it a great week.